This is the edit organizers discussing the artistic quality of an educational video and the artistic criteria that we have posted on the Edit Challenge website. So we have cut down the different aspects into storytelling, acting, and other supporting arrangements of the video production. Let's talk first about storytelling, the narrative. How does it work for the viewer? What kind of structure is needed? Do the students, when they're producing a video, do they need a script? Should they write everything down on paper? Is that necessary, or is it something that is just handy? Is it enough that they have sort of a shooting craft or basic idea what they're going to make, or should there actually be like a synopsis story? Is that needed? Is it helpful, Christian?
I think that it's more a question of style. I mean, I tend to say that the script is good, but if I look at me, and I'm a very unstructured person, I very, very often work without the script, and sometimes things still turn out well. Yeah, I mean, both has advantages and disadvantages, and I think it's a very, some people could never do it without the script, but some people just never manage to get the proper script before starting.
Rebecca?
Well, I think yes, it is a question of style, but Christian, you are like a real professional for videos, so you can make a good video out of scraps. So for the students, I would advise to just think about this. You don't have to write it down all the way, but just really think about what you're trying to do and how you're going to do this, because it would be a shame if you have a good story and you forgot to shot one scene and you cannot do it again. So I would really recommend to have at least the outpost of the story so that you know what you are doing.
I think our students, they normally work in relatively small teams, so it's maybe the group of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. So I think at least for the team, it's important that they discuss what the structure is and what story we want to tell as a group. So even though if there isn't like official written script, they should be aware of what story that we are producing together. They should all be aware of the structure and the story they are trying to tell, because it helps so much in the production that, okay, this is what we're trying to do now, and this is what we're trying to do in the editing, and we want to be clear that this is the main emphasis of what we're doing. So at least it's a helpful thing for the production team to know what story we're telling and where the focus is.
I agree.
Christian, you have a comment.
I definitely agree, Rebecca, and not having a script needs a lot of improvisation usually. So if you do it without the script, you have to be good in improvising, because it happens often then that something is missing or something is not working well. But it also has, and it really depends on the video you're doing. Yeah, sometimes it can be part of the video not to go into something with a clear script. Like I'm actually just working on a major cinema production without the script, because it's part of the script that the story develops. I don't know what's going to happen. In this case, I just can't make a script because it involves the stories of 8 people, and I actually don't know what they will be telling me. It's a documentary, and I let it develop while producing. But this is part of the idea. So for an occasional video, if you're not experienced, I definitely agree with Rebecca that a good script can make your life a lot easier.
And I think there are certain points that I would certainly recommend to write down, especially if you're telling a documentary format story or scripted story, where you, for example, might interview an expert, and it's crucial for your story that at a certain point we hear a particular comment from somebody who's an expert or has experienced this. Then you want to be very clear with your questions, because you want a particular answer from them. So you don't want them to ramble 10 minutes about an issue and then you have to cut it in 4 minutes. You want to be very particular that the question you ask will give your interviewee a chance to answer the question you want to put into your story. So some things are worthwhile scripting out as well as possible. I would say interviewing outside experts is one of them. And I guess with storytelling, it's back to the same issues as we mentioned with art, with technical things. If viewer is engaged, and the storytelling doesn't disrupt the experience, then it's probably good enough. But if the flow is there and people understand what the story is, then you're already on the right track. Christian.
I think it's important to build up attention. Don't tell the viewer at the beginning what is the result. Yeah, make it exciting, even for educational things. Yeah, it's much nicer if you kind of watch the video and you always kind of are longing for the answer till you get it at the end. Yeah, if you say the answer in the beginning, it tends to be boring.
That's true, and that's again links very much to the educational aspect that if you spit out the answer as a first thing, it's downfall from there. But if it builds up to something, the reward is in the end of the video, and the reward is in the end, and that's much more interesting from the video viewing point of view. Rebecca.
Yes, but I also think that it is really important, like what we said in educational video, that you have to keep your focus. So you cannot keep telling this one story and, oh, there's something that I have here, and oh, there's something that I have here. Especially if you don't say at the beginning what you're about, it's really hard for the viewer to understand, okay, what's important and what's not important. And as you only have 4 minutes, then it's really hard just to tell one story and keep that clear. And if you distract in too many stories, you will not be able to tell one story in the way that everybody can understand that.
True. So let's talk a few words about acting. We're not asking the participants to be professional acting, and we are certainly not judging or assessing anybody's acting skills in a way that one might look at a TV show or professional media person and say how well or how bad they work in front of camera. But should there be some basics that we want students to be aware of when it comes to acting? Christian?
I think it's if you're not experienced, it's very important to keep it simple. Yeah, it very quickly becomes embarrassing if you try to be the professional actor. Yeah, so maybe consider already in your script that if you don't feel very safe with acting, that it doesn't have a major part. Yeah, because very often it can be. You can explain things very easily, yeah, or you don't need to have a lot of emotion, yeah. Like emotion is something very hard to act out, yeah, crying or joy, yeah. It's very easy. Like again, if you watch at the mathematicians video about last year's second prize, I think of that one very often because I really like it, yeah. They do acting, but not very much. They just walk. They don't speak very much. You know, they keep it very simple. They don't, although this video is extremely emotional, they don't show a lot of emotion. So that's a good way, I think, of dealing with that.
I think something that I comment quite often as a drama teacher, especially for teenagers and 20-something-year-olds, is that why would they try to act roles that are really difficult when most of us who are viewers, it's most interesting thing is to see them act things that are very close to themselves. So act your own age, act things that you know about, which is probably young people your age. So if you choose to act a really small child or really old person or somebody you don't know anything about, it's going to distract if it doesn't work. But if you're acting as someone close to you, you're probably very close to being there. Rebecca.
Yeah, this this goes along the same lines, but I wanted to say that the acting just has to be believable. Like you have to believe the people what they are doing, and if you cannot do it, that the people don't believe it, that the people believe it, then don't do it.
And from the production process wise, I would say that don't when it's limited time, this kind of educational process, I wouldn't put too much time into rehearsing the lines or shooting too long scenes that are difficult dialogue in them. I wouldn't put too much time into that. So, because that's not the main thing to learn how to act whole scenes. Because even 2 minute scene with a lot of dialogue, it takes a long time to rehearse it and get all the beats right. So I certainly wouldn't put too much time and effort into rehearsing that kind of acting scenarios. Christian.
I'm just producing some clips for colleagues here in the inclusive education, and we've done a whole set unsuccessfully with people who were not doing the acting well. So we skipped there was about 20 hours work for nothing. Yeah. We threw all the stuff away now, and I asked some friends actually, whom I knew they were doing video cabaret. And I asked them, can you help me? Can you play this for me? For a dinner, I invite you. And actually they did it for fun. Yeah, they do it for a dinner, you know, because they actually like it so much. So maybe you have some friends that are in a drama group, and they can do the acting for you. That can save you an awful lot of time, because these people were actually, we did all the recording we needed 20 hours before in 2 hours, because we pressed record, they played it, stop, done. It worked because they were just used to it and felt just well with it, you know.
Rebecca.
That's a good advice, and that's an advice that I would like to underline as well. Like if you know somebody who can help you, just get the help. You don't have to do it all by yourself.
I think the only advice I would give to actors in front of camera in this is keep acting as long as your cameraman or director says cut or thank you. Because sometimes if you stop it like 2 seconds too early, it can be really difficult to edit. So keep acting as long as you hear somebody saying thank you or cut. All right. Supporting arrangements, music, visual elements. Oh, yeah. Christian, go ahead. You had something to comment.
We don't have it here. I saw it in the artistic quality. We left out the picture completely. So maybe I'd just like to say a little bit. I don't know if I had mentioned it in the technical merits already, but I think for the picture quality also has an artistic element. Yeah. So kind of try to make the nicest picture possible. Yeah, with what you can do with your device, and for that it is important that you don't move it around like that. Yeah, you keep a stable camera. I know we've talked about it in technical merits, but it's also important here. Yeah, for an artistic quality, that it's nice to look at it, that you don't.
I think we just wrote down the line visual elements, and we kind of hope that people understand that it's visual format, beautiful pictures, compositions, they do have their effect. They are important. Again, they're not the main thing in this, but it does create a lot of the effect when it comes to videos and visual formats if the pictures are beautiful, if you actually have some composition of elements within the frame. So of course it has a lot of effect on the viewer. Yeah, go ahead, Christian.
If you zoom, it has to be part of the story. If it's not part of the story, don't zoom too much. Yeah, and if you make a move of the camera, don't make it too fast. It's very often done like that, and then it's distracting the viewer. But while a slow move builds up excitement and tension, because people want to know what comes next in the next frame. Yeah, so try to do it slowly. It's very, very often, from beginners especially, it's very, very often done too fast. And be careful with zooming. Yeah, zooming often distracts.
And I think it's safe to assume that when it comes to teacher students, there are a lot of, it's very common that we have a lot of students who we might say that have a good eye. They have a good eye for visuals. So it's, I think the videos that we have seen the past years, we can say that there are people who know, they recognize interesting locations, they recognize interesting angles, and they recognize interesting compositions, and they can create them. So of course, use that. If you know and you like and you're interested in that kind of things, please incorporate them into your video. I mean, it's wonderful to see if somebody has actually made visually very artistic and aesthetic and interesting video. Of course, it's interesting for anybody who watches that. How about music? We have mentioned at least that at least people need to be aware of the copyrights, but they cannot choose their favorite rock song or they cannot choose their favorite movie and just take that music and put it in your video. That you actually do have to produce the music yourself, or you have to know about Creative Commons and how to find music online that you can actually use any way you want. There's plenty of it available, so it's not about that. It's mostly about people not knowing where to look for and how to use it. Anything else about the music you might want to say?
I'm just wondering if we should. I know if I'm quite busy the next days. That's the problem. We should maybe put something on some links on the website. Free music archive and these things that would probably help the students to have access easily to these platforms.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we have to kind of find a way till next week to do that. And some editing software like VVideo and also the Luma Fusion I just mentioned before, they include already free music kind of in their interface. So you can choose. Of course, it's limited, but you have some things. iMovie does as well.
Yes, it does, but then again, there's I would say, one risk that I would say that a lot of people recognize that, oh, you used the iMovies
Yeah.
tool called that. So they're very cliched and stereotypical now because there's only like 12 tracks, so people recognize them, and it might distract the viewing experience.
It's a little bit like with PowerPoint, no?
Yeah.
The presets.
Rebecca.
This is something that I would like to say about music, that you have to keep in mind that music can set the tone and that music can help, but it can also be distract, and it can also be overwhelming. So you have to make sure that even if you use music, you can hear the spoken word, because the spoken word is the more important thing, except you have a music example or something. So just choose the music wisely, that it just supports your story and that it sets the tone, but it sets the tone in a really, I don't know, in a good way.
Then I think the final thing about artistic quality is the line stylistic choices. What do we mean by stylistic choices, Rebecca? What do we mean by them?
Well, you can make a real artistic movie, but you have to be inside the choice. Like I don't know how to explain right. Just if you make a documentary, you cannot go into really strange angles and stuff like that. But if your video is about that, then you can use it as an element, as a stylistic element. But you have to keep in that frame.
Yeah, and I think to me one good like really simple example would be like, okay, if for any reason if you choose to make black and white film, and then suddenly the last scene is in color, it would be really strange. Like if your choice is to make stylistic choices to make black and white film, and suddenly there's one scene with color, it has to have a lot of meaning why it's in the color, or otherwise it will look like a mistake. So if you make stylistic choice, stick to it and think what kind of tricks you can use to support that style.
Yes, And what I would say is, if you go for black and white, which can be nice, you have to have a reason for that. You have to know why you do it, and not just do it because it's just cool. Just don't use effects.
I think
for
that
the
applies
effect.
for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that applies for everything. I think it always has to have a meaning. It always has to support the story, whatever you do. And I'd like to disagree with you, Janne, in this case, because I know some very good films that actually use this change between black and white and color as part of the story. So that can be a very, very nice effect, if an effect, not a mistake. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and surely you can, these days, you can find from the App Store, you can find beautiful special effects. You can make same explosions and whatever effects that they use in TV shows and movies, but should you use everything that is available? Probably not if they're not supporting your story and its education effect. I think we have discussed all the aspects of criteria that we have expressed on the EDIT website. Thank you all for participating, and I think for students who are listening to this video, in all participating organizations, you will find somebody who is your link to explain the criteria better if you need more explanations, and certainly you can reach us organizers via email or via our Facebook page and ask further questions or comments if you want to do so. Thanks for listening to these recordings, and I wish you a good edit for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.